this car, the Balf Motorsport Ferrari, on pole. Keane just busy consulting with the engineers, ready for the off. Alongside them on the front row of the grid, Kelly Rugolo, and passing the Taurus in the AF Course Ferrari. Rugolo, who put together a fighting drive yesterday to climb up through the order en route to a third place finish. Lining up third on the grid then is the second AF Course Ferrari, Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac and Raffaele Giammaria. And it is Perez-Compagnac who will be taking to the start. Fourth on the grid for yesterday's race-winning car, the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren of Miguel Ramos and Alvaro Parent. And the very relaxed Miguel Ramos starting an excellent fifth in qualifying this morning for Ilya Melnikov in the AF Course Ferrari. Russian driver who's been steadily impressive throughout the course of the year. Sixth on the grid, and the car to watch for as the race unfolds is the Baporo Motorsport Ferrari of the Argentinian driver pairing of Matheus Russo and Emiliano Lopez. And it is Lopez who will take the start. They, of course, won race 2 in Estoril a couple of weeks ago. And then seventh on the grid for Nicola Bonucci in the Vallorba course Ferrari that he shares with Alessandro Balzan. Next up on the grid is Manuel da Costa in the Sports New Mercedes. And again, that car was showing a fine turn of pace during the slightly longer 70-minute race yesterday. And then we have got Felipe Barrieroth and Mads Rasmussen, another of the AF Course Ferraris. They line up in 9th place. It's Felipe Barrieroth who starts, but again, Rasmussen during the opening stint yesterday was looking impressive. We've got the grid being cleared, and this then is how they should line up in full, with Keane and Rugolo on the front row. That will be an interesting run towards the first turn. Then Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac and Miguel Ramos watch for the McLaren in the second half of the race when Alvaro Parent takes over. The same on the third row. Matheus Russo claims the Baporo Ferrari from Emiliano Lopez. That car could well feature, as will, I'm sure, the Vallorba Course Ferrari of Bonucci and Balzan, Felipe Barrieroth and Shahin Nouri. And then, unfortunately, we have lost from competition today the ART Lamborghini of Anton Neblitsky and Alvaro Barbara. They couldn't repair the car after yesterday's mechanical issues. So away go the cars on the formation lap, and it is Phil Keane who leads them on their way. And do watch for the progress of the Radical RXCs towards the back of the field. Rafael Unzarazaga is there on the grid. I suspect Shahin Nouri may well be joining us from the pit lane, having qualified that car competitively earlier on. And he will be handing over to James Abbott mid-race. So yes, the ART Lamborghini, Barbara Neblitsky, which was so competitive yesterday. Unfortunately, the gearbox failure they had at the end of yesterday's race was fairly catastrophic, and despite the best efforts of the team overnight, they couldn't quite get the car out and ready for competition today. So that is the Taurus. So the cars on the formation lap ahead of the 6th race of the International GTOpen season. And again, this promises to be a race full of plenty of intrigue. I think what we could probably expect to see is Phil Keane and Michele Rugolo looking to make a little bit of a jump early on, but then it will be the buffer that they can pull out over the likes of Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac, Miguel Ramos, Emiliano Lopez and Nicola Bonucci, which is going to be worth watching. If you've never seen the International GTOpen before, to explain, it's a championship predominantly for GT3 cars, but also we have the Cup class for some of the other GT cars competing, and they all run on a controlled compound Michelin tyre. The way that performance is equalised through the course of the season is the addition of pit handicap time from the cars successful in the preceding races. And so crucially for today, Miguel Ramos and Alvaro Parent, they've got an additional 30 seconds in the pits to contend with, passing the Taurus and Michele Rugolo in this additional 20 seconds. And for Balzan and Bonucci, it's an additional 10 seconds. For Phil Keane in pole position, he and Sean Balfe have got no further time in the pits and that could be absolutely critical if Keane gets a good start to the race. So the cars picking their way through Village and the loop now. They'll then begin to form up, ready for the rolling start as they head down the Wellington Straight. The sun gleaming on these supercars. Let's have a look at the Sport & New Mercedes, which again should not be discounted. The car piloted by Manuel da Costa and Miguel Sardina, as there is Raffaele Giammaria, who will be taking over from Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac. A little glimpse into the Balfe Motorsport garage as well, as the lights are out on the pace car now. The field rumbling down the Wellington Straight. They'll be able to go racing when the lights flash out on the gantry, as Phil Keane and Michele Rugolo share the front row. This should be thrilling as they race towards Copse Corner for the first time. Both drivers frustrated in traffic in the second half of yesterday's race after the fine defensive job from Anton Neblitsky. Well, they've got nothing but empty asphalt ahead of them. What sort of margin can they build in the early stages ahead of the mandatory pit stops, which will come when we're 24 minutes into the race? So 60 minutes of action for the International GTOpen, about to get underway for the 6th time this year as the field race towards the gantry, and the lights go out now and away we go. Charge towards Copse Corner. Who's got the jump? Is it Keane or Rugolo? It's Phil Keane who leads the way into Copse. Behind it's congested as Emiliano Lopez gets the jump on Miguel Ramos, and Nicola Benucci looking to do much the same. And in fact, Lopez goes toe-to-toe with compatriot Perez-Compagnac. That's a brilliant start for the Paporo Ferrari, up to 30. Then somewhat compounds it by bouncing across the curbs. Potentially gains a little bit of an advantage through all of that before they accelerate out of Chapel Curve, down the Hangar Straight. The heat haze shimmers, and Phil Keane leads the way. Rugolo shows himself in Keane's mirrors as they turn into Stowe for the first time. It's a 60-minute timed race, of course. Mandatory pit stops from the 24th to the 36th minute, and that's where the strategy dimension really comes to the fore. So they get on the brakes down through the Vale and then around Club Corner. It's also been a good start from Felipe Barrieros and Ilya Melnikov. They are staying with Nicola Benucci and Miguel Ramos through this first lap. So Keane and Rugolo try to break clear. Meanwhile, Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac flashing his headlights. Emiliano Lopez, as he can see already, Keane and Rugolo beginning to build the buffer that we anticipated may be the case. As Perez-Compagnac sees a gap to the inside of Lopez. That gap disappears with then Miguel Ramos in the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren just behind. And then it's Nicola Benucci in the Villorba Course Ferrari, with that 30 seconds of additional pit handicap time for Ramos. He needs to stay as close to the leading group of cars as possible. They turn into Brooklands and Rugolo flicks it sideways. Very different approaches to Brooklands on that first lap from Keane and Rugolo. Then we've got this fight for third as Lopez runs a little bit wide through Luffield. We'll pick them out in a moment as Felipe Barrieros joins in that scrap, and I think that Perez-Compagnac is through past Emiliano Lopez. Let's have a look. And indeed he is, so a change for third place as the leading cars turn through Copse Corner. Keane and Rugolo almost 3 seconds clear of the fight for third, and there you see it. Perez-Compagnac is through. We could just caught a glimpse of Emiliano Lopez sliding sideways as they went through Luffield. And we have seen this throughout the season. The new for 2015 Michelin tyre gives a great level of grip and performance, but it does take a lap or two to warm up, and that's why we've been seeing the cars moving around in the early stages of each race this year and also immediately post pit stop. So down the Hangar Straight we come with Ilya Melnikov pressurising Nicola Benucci. Melnikov looks to the inside of Benucci. That's the fight for 6th and 7th place as they head into the Vale. Perez-Compagnac trying to move clear of Lopez. As then we've got Benucci busy defending from Melnikov. Melnikov, who has raced extensively in Porsche racing in Italy, but also in the European Le Mans Series as well. Pressurising Benucci, who was 5th in last year's Italian GT Championship before making the step up to international competition. And Benucci being harried by Melnikov, who is he close enough to challenge to the inside into Village? No, not quite. As now Emiliano Lopez immediately slipping back towards Miguel Ramos, and Ramos bottled up behind the Argentinian. It's not exactly escaping from Nicola Benucci or Ilya Melnikov, so they head down the Wellington Straight once more. Felipe Barrieros is just beginning to slip away from this fight for fourth position. And Benucci slightly offline through Brooklands. That brings Melnikov into the mix. Now, can Benucci get it stopped for Luffield? He runs a bit wide, but Melnikov couldn't quite force the switch back. And by the time he's close enough to challenge, the gap has closed. So the McLaren powers through Woodcote. But look just behind, because Melnikov comes out of the bubble now, looks to challenge Benucci, can't do it into Kopp's corner. Had one big bite along the straight. Thought about it again as they arrived into the turn. Instead, he looks to challenge. As they come over the crown in the hill, up to Maggots, and then running through Beckett's. And this is all because of the slightly inconsistent pace at the moment of Emiliano Lopez. Lopez has been comprehensively dropped by Ezequiel Perez-Companac as the leading cars of Keane and Rugolo turn through Stowe Corner. And this is one of the beauties of the International GTOpen, is these hare and tortoise type races. We've got two pro drivers in the form of Keane and Rugolo. They have got to build as much of a buffer as they can early on. But at the same time, Rugolo doesn't want to be frustrated if he feels that Keane is a little bit slower than he could go. And therefore, for now, Michele Rugolo content to run just behind Phil Keane. But if he thinks that he could go quicker, then he'll start to harry and really look to challenge. So Phil Keane turns into Village. He's got Michele Rugolo in his wheel tracks. Keane and Balfe won podium to their credit already in 2015. That came in race 2 in Estoril. They would arguably have been on the rostrum in race 1, but for some issues during refuelling. Here is another look then at the big moment for Emiliano Lopez into Beckett's on lap 1, realising the car doesn't want to turn. Sensibly, rather than trying to salvage the corner, just lets it run straight on. So Michele Rugolo begins to harry Phil Keane. Rugolo setting the fastest lap of the race last time around. I suspect he's probably going to set another fastest lap of the race this time through, as the pair of them in tandem flash over the start and finish line, head towards Kopp's corner. And Rugolo just getting a little bit frustrated possibly, because he and passing the Thoris have got 20 seconds of pit stop handicap to overcome. Meanwhile, we return to the fight between Nicola Benucci and Ilya Melnikov. It remains Benucci from Melnikov. So they continue to dispute 6th and 7th. And all the while, Emiliano Lopez and Miguel Ramos hardly disappearing off into the sunset. Benucci just a little bit tentative through Beckett's as he heads onto the hangar straight. Rugolo right up behind Phil Keane, turning through Stowe. Keane, though, has raced with considerable success in the British GT Championship. Knows the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit very, very well. And there's quite a few of the tricks of the trade for a good lap time around here. Michele Rugolo, though, has been one of the stars of the GTOpen for the past couple of seasons, and it's good to see him in a position to really challenge for the title. But has the door on Rugolo's car come loose? Let's have a look at it from side on. There was something flapping. It's the window, isn't it, that's just a little bit detached from the rim of the car. I don't think that's going to delay him as such. It's just going to be slightly frustrating, you'd suggest, for Michele Rugolo. There's another look at it as it just flutters a little bit in the breeze. They head down the Wellington Straight, continuing to circulate nose to tail. And is Rugolo close enough to challenge? No, he's not. The gap between them actually a couple of car lengths on the brakes into Brooklands. And then around Luffield. Frustrating corner, Luffield. Just seems to go on for an absolute eternity. Well, it's been a good lap for Nicola Benucci. He has shaken off Ilya Melnikov and has decided that he'd rather like to be ahead of the McLaren of Miguel Ramos. So that's his target as they head into the 5th lap of the race. Miguel Ramos, though, very relaxed this season, really enjoying his racing with the Teo Martin Motorsport team. Delighted to score that victory yesterday. He gets onto terms with Emiliano Lopez. So they successfully negotiate Kopp's corner. Very slight rise then before the road levels out into Maggots, and then the Beckett's complex. Real test of both man and machine. Beckett's high-speed direction changes, but the sequence slows as Bonucci makes a little bit of an error as he comes through the final segment of Beckett's. Meanwhile, the leaders very closely matched as they head out of Stowe Corner. As now Melnikov, it looked as if he may be in a position to challenge, and that's exactly what happens. So Ilya Melnikov moves up into 6th position. Great stuff from the Russian driver. He's been building for that move for a couple of laps, and it was exactly as we were talking about Beckett's. The way it slows, you can get caught out if you don't know the Silverstone circuit particularly well, that you need to gently scrub off the speed. For Bonucci, he had to jump on the anchors a little bit more sternly. That caused the car to wash out, and Melnikov was ready to pounce. Meanwhile, the fight for 4th is looking very tight because Emiliano Lopez has been caught here by Miguel Ramos, and Ramos closing up behind Lopez, who has to defend into Village. Ramos looks to the outside, and Miguel Ramos goes through around the outside of Emiliano Lopez up into 4th position. And that was a beautifully judged manoeuvre from Ramos. He left the Argentinian with no means of defence. And as we're 10 minutes in, you don't know where to look. The battle for the lead is still in full flight, and it is Phil Keane who leads from Michele Rugolo. Here's another look at that pass from Ramos. Lopez covers the inside line, but the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren so beautifully poised, and Ramos utter confidence on the brakes. Lopez looks to fight back. Ilya Melnikov has decided that this looks like a lot of fun, so he joins in as well. So into lap 6, the order is Phil Keane from Michele Rugolo. In 3rd place, it's Ezequiel Perez-Companac. This is the fight for 4th. Miguel Ramos from Emiliano Lopez, Ilya Melnikov, and then Nicola Bonucci. In 8th place, we've got Felipe Barrieroth. 9th is Manuel da Costa. And then in 10th at the moment, it's Rafael Unzarazaga, who's having a great scrap with the other radical in the race of Shahin Nouri. But this is what's capturing everybody's attention. Thrilling battle for 4th position as Melnikov again gets a super run out of Beckett's, and Chapel Curve onto the hanger straight. This is where the Russian driver looks so strong, and therefore he thinks about challenging Lopez on the brakes into Stowe Corner. Can't quite draw alongside. And as Melnikov commits to the manoeuvre, that suddenly brings Bonucci back into play as well. As they get on the brakes into Vale. Miguel Ramos just looking so smooth, as is Melnikov. For Emiliano Lopez, the Paporo Ferrari just seems a little bit nervous, as it did a couple of times last year when it was running under the SMP Russian Bears banner. And certainly at Silverstone, I seem to remember Daniel Zampieri struggling with a car that was just a little bit tricky in the handling department. And maybe it's a little bit nervous in setup for Lopez today, because he's got Melnikov all over his tail. Meanwhile, the battle at the front of the field, it remains Keane from Rugolo. Suspect that Michele Rugolo is thoroughly sick of the sight of Phil Keane's rear spoiler, because you get the impression that if Rugolo could get himself into a little bit of clear air, he might be slightly faster. Rugolo is lap upon lap consoling himself by setting the fastest lap of the race. Doesn't quite do it on that occasion. I think frustratingly for Michele Rugolo, that lap was about 0.4 of a second away from the pace that he wants to be running. And at the moment, his race pace is totally dictated by Phil Keane. The pair of them are 7 seconds clear of Ezequiel Perez-Companac, and Perez-Companac 7 seconds clear of Ramos. And then it's Ilya Melnikov who has found a way past Emiliano Lopez. So Melnikov continuing this absolutely fantastic performance as he moves up into 5th position. Here we have another look at it. And Lopez just runs wide, bumps across the grass, rejoins a little bit sideways at Woodcote, and Melnikov glides past. So we are on lap 7 of the race. We are about 10 minutes away from the pit window opening, which is the point at which the strategy is really come into play. So don't forget, Michele Rugolo and Passing the Thoros, they have got an additional 20 seconds in the pits relative to the car that they're chasing, that of Phil Keane and Sean Balfe. But the Balfe Motorsport team, they had a podium Estoril get away from them with a slow pit stop, so they will be a little bit anxious as to how it unfolds. Ezequiel Perez-Kompanak and Raffaele Gianmaria are still very, very nicely poised for the victory here. If Gianmaria gets his fighting face on, then 7 seconds is going to be something that he will feel is immensely chaseable. And then likewise, Matthias Russo in the Peporo Ferrari, when he takes that over from Emiliano Lopez, could be in the hunt. But again, Rugolo just beginning to express his frustration behind Phil Keane. Keane metronomically sticking to the racing line. He's not driving defensively here. He is just making it abundantly clear for Michele Rugolo that if he wants to get past, he's going to have to do all the work. So Rugolo follows the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari into Copse Corner. The gap between the pair of them comes down to under 0.2 of a second. Rugolo setting the fastest speed of anybody in the race so far on the last lap, 256 kilometres per hour at the end of the Hangar Straight, which is not that far shy of 200 miles an hour. Gives you an indication of just how quickly these GT3 Ferraris propel themselves around Silverstone. So the leaders down the Hangar Straight. Now are we going to see there in the background, you see Ezequiel Perez-Kompanak, and Perez-Kompanak is running at a not dissimilar pace to this leading pair as we hit 1/4 race distance. And the way the strategies could unfold, it's looking not unlikely we're going to have a battle between Sean Balfe and Raffaele Gianmaria in the second half of the race for the honours, with possibly the progress of these two cars in the hands of Matthias Russo and Alessandro Balzan. So Benucci coming on to terms with Emiliano Lopez, and Lopez has dropped some way back now from Ilya Melnikov. So he negotiates Vale and then Club. Benucci looking very smooth at the wheel, and of course for Nicola Benucci this season all about really learning these international circuits alongside the experienced Alessandro Balzan, both of them thoroughly enjoying the Silverstone Grand Prix layout. Was that a little bit offline through Abbey from Emiliano Lopez? If it was, Benucci couldn't quite capitalise. So through Village and then flicking left hand through the loop. You can see they're about a sector or so adrift, aren't they, of this leading pair. It's 20 seconds or so from first place down to 7th. Across the line, Phil Keane and Michele Rugolo. There is Sean Balfe watching his car in action. Thumbs up from Sean, really nice guy. Sean Balfe, always very good to talk to in the paddock. But he has been saying that because Phil Keane is so quick, it does apply the pressure just a little bit to him to try and match it. So he'll be pleased with the progress, but beginning with the pit window opening just a couple of moments away, to turning his attention to what point he'll take the car over and what sort of advantage he may well emerge with. Michele Rugolo passing the Thoras is going to have quite a task to get the car onto the podium, as they look to make it 5 podiums from 6 races. But that time around, Rugolo a little bit deeper possibly than he would have liked to have been on the brakes into the Vale. The gap doesn't really open out, however, as Phil Keane, just super smooth, accelerates on his way out of Club. And the other fact to consider here, of course, is that Keane is probably not overly using those Michelin tires, where you get the sense, just from the poise of the AF Corse Ferrari in the hands of Michele Rugolo, that he is using that car a little bit more. So they jump on the brakes, flick down through the paddle shift gears, Village and then the loop. Oh, and Rugolo just kicks up the dust on the exit of the loop. Doesn't really delay him too much as they head then onto the Wellington Straight. The Ferraris singing in the June sunshine. As Rugolo closes up onto the tail of Keane again, under braking into Brooklands. And Phil Keane runs a little bit wide. Now, is this the opening for Michele Rugolo? He'd like to think so. He looks to try and challenge around the outside at Luffield and then for the switch back into Woodcote. It doesn't quite happen. So the pair of them running nose to tail across the line, and that brings the gap down to just 0.2 of a second as they flick into Copse Corner. A 2 minutes 2.2 for Phil Keane, 2 minutes 1.9 for Michele Rugolo, and Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac circulating in the 2 minutes 2.1 bracket, exactly 7.5 seconds back from this leading tussle, and then Miguel Ramos a further 10 seconds back from there. He's got Ilya Melnikov circulating in tandem behind him. Have a little bit of a look into the cockpits of Keane and Rugolo. Just a tiny correction from Michele Rugolo. Gives you an indication that he is just working that car quite hard, trying to really just almost hassle Phil Keane into an error. But Keane quite comfortable in withstanding everything Rugolo's got to offer at the moment. Again, Rugolo using all of the road on the way into the Vale. Doesn't really translate to any sort of advantage coming out of club as they accelerate past the wing pits on towards Abbey and Farm. So the quick right, then left-hander into Abbey, and again Rugolo tries to take a little bit of bite into Phil Keane's advantage through Farm, and then almost immediately setting the car up on the brakes for Village. Rugolo, you could see, was just beginning to get to the limit of the aerodynamic grip offered up by the Ferrari. So we approach 1/3 race distance in the 6th race of the International GT Open at Silverstone. We are on lap 10. Phil Keane leads the way just from Michele Rugolo. In 3rd place, it's Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac. 4th, Miguel Ramos. 5th, we've got Ilya Melnikov. 6th is Emiliano Lopez. 7th is Nicola Benucci. And arguably, all 7 of those cars could well feature on the podium. 8th place is Felipe Barriero. 9th is Manuel da Costa. And then in the battle that we've not really seen between Shaheen Nouri and Rafael Unzarazaga, Shaheen Nouri has now found a way past Unzarazaga, as there is a glimpse at Miguel Ramos at work. So we are into another lap. And Phil Keane continuing just to get on with his own race. He knows that Michele Rugolo is there. He knows that Rugolo wants to get through, but he's just quite content to let Rugolo make all the running, push the car maybe a little bit harder than he'd ideally want to, as they propel themselves down the hangar straight. So it will be at the end of the next lap, the lap after, that we're going to be seeing the pit window opening. And that's the point where we're going to potentially see the likes of Miguel Ramos and Nicola Benucci ducking into the pits. Handing over to the slightly quicker drivers will be taking on the car for the second half of the race. But they both have substantial handicaps to overcome in terms of additional pit time. So again, accelerating on towards Abbey. And Rugolo kicks up the dust, takes a big bite of curb through Abbey, and again gets the car a little bit unsteady through Farm. He's really pushing, and he tries to force the move into Village, and he runs side by side with Phil Keane. And Rugolo took big chances through Abbey and Farm, really on the limit. And has that worked out in terms of being able to challenge down the Wellington Straight? It might just, because he is appreciably closer to Phil Keane, and the two Ferraris running almost bumper to bumper as they punch down towards the braking zone at Brooklands, and Rugolo bursts from the bubble, but he's not quite close enough to challenge, and therefore it remains as it was, Phil Keane from Michele Rugolo. But the pair of them elevating their pace somewhat. Here is a look at Shaheen Nouri, who had just got ahead of Rafael Unzarazaga and now will drop behind Rafael Unzarazaga. Quick spin for the Swiss. As Keane and Rugolo, this battle now just crackling into life. There was Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac, 8.3 seconds his deficit to the Keane and Rugolo battle. And then in 4th, Miguel Ramos, a further 11.6 seconds back. And this is wonderful stuff, seeing two of the top exponents of international GT racing at the top of their game. And believe you me, Phil Keane's making it look very smooth, very straightforward. He is racing as hard as he can at the wheel of the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari, and it is hot work inside the cockpit of these cars as they head down out of Stowe on the brakes for Vale. Phil Keane doing everything he can to just be as smooth as possible, whereas Michele Rugolo working the AF Course Ferrari. He's got to be careful of track limits here as well, Rugolo, because He has dipped four wheels over the white line on more than one occasion. That's the point at which the race director, David Scott, might begin to get interested. So here is Ilya Melnikov in 5th position. He is the top GTM runner in the AF Course Ferrari that he shares with Claudio Sadanovic, and I really can't praise Melnikov highly enough for the performance so far. This has been a very, very nice drive from the Russian to mix it with some of the professional drivers at the front of the field as the driver change window is now open. Melnikov has broken 5 seconds clear of Emiliano Lopez. He's 6 seconds worth an advantage over Nicola Bonucci. As turning through Luffield, this is the conclusion of lap 12. Still Phil Keane and Michele Rugolo tied together as one. Not unsurprisingly, neither of them heads into the pits, but will we see Miguel Ramos into the pit lane? Will we see Emiliano Lopez and Nicola Bonucci also darting towards the pits? That is going to be worth keeping an eye on. So the leaders head on their way. Ezequiel Perez-Compenac doesn't pit in, our timing screen tells us, but it's that wait for what happens with Miguel Ramos that I think is going to be intriguing. And I suspect Ramos has gone into the pits. Indeed he has. So Ramos is the first driver to make the driver change. He comes to a halt at the Teo Martin Motorsport pit box. The door is open, a new set of rear tyres certainly for Ramos. He hops out. Alvaro Parent gets in. Don't forget that they have got an additional 30 seconds of pit stop handicap time as a result of their successes in preceding races, and therefore that is going to be asking something of a miracle from Parent to get the car onto the podium. The other change, of course, is the car of Nicola Bonucci and Alessandro Balzan, the Valois Course Ferrari, and also in as well is Emiliano Lopez to hand over to Matthias Russo. We thought they might peel in early, so this is going to be really interesting because we get to that stage of the race where we've got cars racing rivals on the other side of the circuit. They can't see them, they've just got to be putting in the lap times and trusting it all goes well. Meanwhile, we have got a little bit of traffic potentially to contend with. The former Shahin Nouri in the Radical. Nouri recovering well after that spin. Shahin very quickly in his motorsport career making the step up to international GT racing. Really interesting to talk to Shahin Nouri. Fascinating that the work that he does in his day job in Nigeria involving radio stations, but absolutely passionate about his competition in motorsport. He then ducks into the pits, and that will be for James Abbott to take over. So Shahin Nouri is into the pits. Keane and Rugolo will continue on their way. The pit window will close when we've got 24 minutes left on the clock. So here comes Shahin Nouri down the Silverstone pit lane. As Keane and Rugolo, they have got actually Alvaro Parent just ahead of them as the Gull Wings open on the Radical. Fine looking car. Also in is Ezequiel Perez-Compenac to pass over to Raffaele Giammaria. Now let's see how the number 90 AF Course Ferrari flies in the second half of the race with Giammaria at the wheel. They've already had one victory so far this season. That came in Estoril. And we have so far this year had 5 different winners from 5 races. So will we have a 6th from 6, or will somebody get their second triumph of the year notched on the board? So there is Parent picking his way past Rafael Unzurunzaga. Unzurunzaga, who knows Silverstone very well from prior competition in the International GTOpen, but also his days in the Renault Megane Euro Cup. As Keane and Rugolo continuing to just be circulating as one. Unzurunzaga sees Phil Keane coming. He sees Michele Rugolo coming. Allows them both to ease past, to then pick up the pace and propel themselves down the Wellington Straight. They've got Alvaro Parent as the target just ahead. Turning through Brooklands, and again Michele Rugolo trying to force the move at Luffield. Looks to the outside. He knows there's not going to be space to the inside line as the pair of them accelerate onward towards Woodcote. This is still the battle for the lead of the race, and with the pit stops in full swing, it is Phil Keane who leads the way from Michele Rugolo. Then it's Ilya Melnikov in third place, Felipe Barrios in fourth, and Manuel da Costa in fifth. They are into lap 15. Thank you very much for joining us for the International GTOpen at Silverstone this weekend. Well, yesterday, the race really sparked into life in the second half. It's been pretty entertaining in these early stages, but once the pit strategies play through, we could be in for plenty of entertainment as Rafael Unzarazaga takes his turn to make a pit stop. And Rugolo closes up onto Phil Keane again on the brakes into Stowe Corner. And whilst this is ongoing, I should let you know that Alessandro Balzan has just set the fastest first sector of anybody in the race so far, with a 36.2 in the Valour Course Ferrari. So Balzan is on the move. He is about 10 seconds up the road ahead of this battle, as we are approaching half race distance, just over 30 minutes left on the clock. And of those that have pitted, it is Gia Maria who is clear of Russo, Balzan and Parent. Here is Felipe Barrios, currently running in fourth, and he's about to engage in battle here with Manuel da Costa in the sporting new Mercedes. So this is turning into quite a nice battle as well, between, again, two of the amateur driver pairings. But Barrios was in sparkling form in Estoril, and the sporting new Mercedes is always a very neatly turned out car. Always performs strongly. So we've got another few minutes of the pit lane being open, so I suspect that Keane and Rugolo will continue on for the time being. But this is absolutely fascinating. Alessandro Balzan has just set the fastest lap of the race with a 2 minutes .938, which is 2 seconds quicker than this leading duo circulating. And Alvaro Parent has just gone quicker still with a 2 minutes .896. And so Balzan and Parent, as we knew they would, are on a charge. They have got the remainder of the 29 minutes to run as they wish. There is Parent in the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren. But by the time this has all unpicked itself, I suspect we're going to see after the pit stops Sean Balfe emerging in the lead of the race, probably ahead of Raffaele Giamaria and Matthias Russo. But then with some of the cars that have had the additional handicap time from preceding podiums in pretty close pursuit. So out of Stowe we come in towards the Vale. Phil Keane just missing the apex on that occasion. Michele Rugolo, though, not quite in a position to pounce, as Parent is on another absolute flyer, as he essentially drives away from these cars. Into the pit lane comes Felipe Barrios. That is Mads Rasmussen who will be taking over from him. Rasmussen, who has raced previously with great success in the Trofeo Maserati World Series and also in the LMS as well. The Danish driver eases himself into the cockpit of the AF Course Ferrari. The sister AF Course Ferrari, Michele Rugolo, remains in pursuit of Phil Keane. The pair of them have essentially been circulating as one, as Parent is on for another absolutely scintillating lap here, because he has set the fastest second sector of anybody in the race so far as well. As they head through Luffield, this is the end of lap 16, and Phil Keane and Michele Rugolo both need to head into the pits on this occasion before the window shuts, so they leave it as late as they can, as here is the car. Essentially, they're racing while static. Raffaele Giamaria in the AF Course Ferrari. So Giamaria is at Stowe. Phil Keane will hand over to Sean Balfe. Michele Rugolo, the car that comes to halt there, it's Pasi Lathoras, the driver from Thailand, who will take over. Lathoras hops in, so don't forget there's an extra 20 seconds in the pits for Rugolo and Lathoras. There's no extra time for Sean Balfe as he gets strapped into his Ferrari. Essentially, they'll be looking for the progress of the other cars. Here comes Alvaro Parent, who has just set the fastest lap of the race, a 2 minutes .576, and he's on course for another fastest lap of the race, as you'd expect from the 2005 British F3 champion, 2007 Formula Renault 3.5 litre champion. Now, very, very successful and accomplished GT racer, one of the the McLaren Factory Works drivers, and making the McLaren 650S absolutely fly here at Silverstone. So Perrin easing his way through Farm. You can just see from the poise of that car, he's got a substantial deficit to some of the cars in front to chase down. As here comes Sean Balfe, and Balfe, by my reckoning, has emerged in the lead of the race in the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari. We will find out at the end of this lap. We'll find out which all the gaps are. But the way that it has unfolded as Miguel Sardinia takes over from Manuel da Costa in the Sporting U Mercedes. We've also got into the pits any moment now Ilya Melnikov as well. Here comes passing the Thoras rather, having taken over from Michele Rugolo, and that Ferrari just taking a little while to get up to speed, but you can see how important that 20 seconds has been. So here is Balfe at the far side of the circuit. Picks up the pace through Club Corner. And what sort of advantage has Balfe got? The car that he needs to be mindful of here is that of Raffaele Giammaria and also Matthias Russo. So here is passing the Thoras immediately under pressure from Matthias Russo. And I think this is going to be the fight for third place in the race as Thoras, has he picked up a problem? He runs very wide through Stowe Corner and Russo powers past him. And if Thoras has got a problem, this would be crucial for the championship. Or is it just a case that passing the Thoras is taking a moment or two to bake some heat into the Michelin tyres? We've got 25 minutes to go. The pit window is, to all intents and purposes, closed. This is the last pit stop. Ilya Melnikov jumps out. Claudio Sadanovic gets in, and that's going to give the pair of them the best chance in the Amateur Drivers' Trophy. Well, there is passing the Thoras. I think it was just a case of tyre temperature because the Ferrari running at pace, but he's immediately coming into the clutches of Alessandro Balzan. Let's see it again into Stowe Corner. The Thoras turns in and just washes out and understeers wide. Matthias Russo surges past. So at the front of the field, as we are watching the battle between passing the Thoras and Alessandro Balzan, and again the Thoras runs wide and Balzan powers past. So this has not been a brilliant outlet for passing the Thoras. Just wondering as he comes out of Luffield. Now he's going to continue on his way. So Sean Balfe is essentially our race leader. He is 13 seconds clear, here he is, of Raffaele Giammaria. So that's the battle to watch for. Balfe to Giammaria is 13 seconds. Matthias Russo is third, a further 21 seconds back. But Russo has got Alessandro Balzan hunting him down to the tune of a second a lap. He's only 3 seconds back. And then we've got Alvaro Parent, who is, again, quicker than all of them, just behind as well. And we have still got just over a third of the race remaining. So here comes Raffaele Giammaria. And Giammaria was half a second faster than Sean Balfe just through the first sector. So Balfe leads, Giammaria is second. This man, Matthias Russo, is third. Russo running at the same pace as Giammaria, but being caught rapidly by Alessandro Balzan in the Vallorba course Ferrari. And with an eye to the championship, a good result for Balzan here, with Thoras struggling and Parent having to overcome 30 seconds additional pit time. Could be key. So we've got 22.5 minutes remaining at Silverstone, the 6th round of the International GT Open, and it is the home entry of Sean Balfe and Phil Keane, which is leading the way. But will they be caught by Raffaele Giammaria between now and the checker flag? So Russo negotiates the loop, heads on through Aintree as Sean Balfe across the line and gives us a 2 minutes 3.9. So that's Balfe's first flying lap, a 2 minutes 3.9 for reference. Giammaria, a 2 minutes 2.0, 2 seconds a lap quicker for Raffaele Giammaria. This is the car of Matthias Russo. Now, where is he in relation to Claudio Sadanovic? I think he's clear of Sadanovic as he accelerates through. So Russo is in 3rd place. Alessandro Balzan is in 4th position. But The battle is going to be the one at the front of the field between Balfe and Gia Maria. Gia Maria 2 seconds on that quicker, and 11 seconds the gap between the pair of them. Balzan hunting down Matthias Russo. 2.7 seconds is the differential. Headlights ablaze for the Valour course Ferrari of Balzan. He wants to get himself up on to the rostrum. They were runners-up yesterday, Balzan and Bonucci. Can they snatch third from today? Meanwhile, we've got a great scrap going on between Miguel Sardina and Mads Rasmussen, the pair of them turning through Copse Corner. This is the fight for 8th and 9th position, and Rasmussen asking all sorts of questions of the Portuguese driver Sardina as they head into the Beckett's complex. The Mercedes, though, negotiating Beckett's without any particular drama. Rasmussen closing up onto the tail of Miguel Sardina as they head on to the hangar straight. 2/3 race distance. This is one of those races where there are battles all the way through the field. This is also for second amongst the GTOpen runners, as now we return to the battle for 5th position because Alvaro Parent is on the tail of passing the Thoros. Now this, for the championship, is absolutely crucial because Parent and Ramos outscored the Thoros and Rugolo yesterday, and it's going to be the same again today because through goes Alvaro Parent, passing the Thoros up into 5th position. And this battle is only 4 seconds behind the fight between Matthias Russo and Alessandro Balzan. So if they slow themselves down, Parent could be in a position to potentially snatch a podium. He's passing the Thoras, really struggling to get that car working as he likes. He's understeering through a lot of the slower turns. The gap between Balfe and Gia Maria has come down massively again on this last lap. So the pass for 5th place in favour of Alvaro Parent. Now this is the car that we need to be following with just under a third of the race remaining. Raffaele Gia Maria in the AF Course Ferrari is chasing the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari of Sean Balfe. The gap at the start of this lap was 8.7 seconds. Last time around, Gia Maria was almost 3 seconds quicker than Sean Balfe. And at this rate of capture, Gia Maria is going to be in a position to really pressurise Balfe in the latter stages. Raffaele Gia Maria looking for his 2nd victory of the season. There you see the differential between the pair of them. And Gia Maria were half a second quicker than Balfe through Sector 1. 1.2 seconds quicker than Balfe through Sector 2. This chase is well and truly on. Here is the 3rd place car of Matthias Russo. Russo has got Alessandro Balzan inexorably closing that gap, with Balzan 7/10 faster last time around, and therefore that is possibly going to be well under 2 seconds at the conclusion of this, the 20th lap of the race. And then in 5th place, 8 seconds back is, from this group, is Alvaro Parent. And Parent will be hoping that Balzan and Russo get involved in a little bit of a scrap, as Sandro Balzan, using all the curb, picks up the throttle nice and early in the Valour course Ferrari. The gap between the leaders is down to 6.5 seconds at the end of lap 20. It was a 2 minutes 3.9 for Balfe, a 2 minutes 1.6 for Gia Maria. Rafael Unzaruzaga's team manager has been summoned to race control, as turning through Beckett's now. Balzan trying to close the gap down. It was 1.4 seconds at the end of the lap between Russo and Balzan as they head on to the hangar straight. Has that closed down substantially just through this 1st sector? Yes, it has, a couple of tenths of a second, but it's the middle sector which is key because it comprises probably about half of the lap time here. It's almost a minute, this middle sector, from the end of the hangar straight all the way through to the exit of the loop. And that will give us the true indication as to the pace of Balzan amongst the And there is Nicola Bonucci, just debriefing to the Valour course team. And clearly they've got the car working exactly as they want it to. But the Vapouro Ferrari of Matthias Russo should not be discounted. As they turn their way out of the loop, the gap closing down further still, and Balzan will probably be in a position to challenge Russo at the conclusion of the next lap. Meanwhile, Gia Maria again through the middle sector, 1.2 seconds quicker than Sean Balfe. So the gap between first and second is down to 3.8 seconds, and it is beginning to look very, very good for Raffaele Gia Maria and Ezequiel Perez Compenac for a second victory of the season. It's beginning to look very handy as well for the Valour course Ferrari of Alessandro Balzan and Nicola Bonucci to be on the rostrum once more. Across the line, Russo and Balzan flash, and the pace they're circulating as well, they are closing in on Sean Balfe at almost 3 seconds lap. They're only 21 seconds back from Balfe, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility they might just gobble up the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari between now and the checkered flag. I think a lot of that will depend on whether or not Balzan can find a way past Russo in fairly short order as they head out of Chapel Curve onto the Hangar Straight. 15 minutes remain here at Silverstone, the 6th race of the International GTOpen season. Sean Balfe leads, but is being caught by Raffaele Gia Maria. We are watching the fight for 3rd place between Matthias Russo and Alessandro Balzan. In 5th place, it's the championship leader, Alvaro Parent, and he is 9 seconds back from this scrap. In 6th place, it's Pasi Lathoris, 7th, and our GTM class leader is Claudio Sedanovic. He's clear of Mans Rasmussen, who's found a way past Miguel Sardina, and then it is Rafael Unzurazaga, who's about to engage in battle with James Abbott. So fights all the way through the field. There is Alvaro Parent, the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren championship leading car, and Parent a little bit quicker than both Russo and Balzan on this lap. As now Balzan's poised and he makes the pass to Matthias Russo on the way into the loop. Can he gather it up as Russo draws alongside? The pair of them accelerate through Aintree, and Balzan just overcommitted on the brakes into the loop, but he looks to try and then ease his way past the Vapouro Ferrari down the Wellington Straight. This is the battle for 3rd position, and is decided in favour of Alessandro Balzan. He moves clear of Matthias Russo and is off in pursuit of Gia Maria and Sean Balfe. And the fight for the lead is going to come together on this lap. The Valour course team celebrate as Balzan powers past in 3rd place. But the gap between Balfe and Gia Maria was just 2 seconds as they went across the line. And with 13.5 minutes remaining, that fight for the lead is going to be very close momentarily. Here is another look at how it all started, though, between Russo and Balzan. Balzan looked to the inside at the loop, just couldn't get the car hooked up for the apex again. You can see he runs wide. That gives Russo the chance to challenge back, but Balzan got on the throttle very, very early, and that gave him the velocity down the Wellington Straight to be a little bit later on the brakes into Brooklands. Here is the fight for the lead then. Sean Balfe and Raffaele Gia Maria. And Gia Maria has chased down what was a 13-second advantage in the space of about 5 laps to one which is looking like it's about 1.5 seconds. But Sean Balfe, the 2004 Spanish GT champion, knows his way around GT racing, knows his way around Silverstone extremely well from various domestic competition in the UK. Well, there is Ezequiel Perez Compenac, and therefore will Gia Maria be able to find a way past the Balfe Ferrari? Sean Balfe knows he's coming, moves right to the inside early on the Wellington Straight, moves across to take the racing line. Fairly Gia Maria, though, tucked up behind Balfe as the pair of them arrive absolutely nose to tail into Luffield. But the key here for Gia Maria is not to push too hard, not to be over-aggressive in trying to fight his way past Sean Balfe. Instead, what he needs to do is just bide his time, wait to see if he can force a mistake from Balfe, or just have a gap open itself up, possibly at the end of the Hangar Straight. They're into lap 24. We're going to have time for 6 more laps or thereabouts. which is going to be the frustration here for Sean Balfe, is that if it was a lap or two, he could potentially hold off Gia Maria. For 6 laps, that is going to be a tall order. Well, there is Phil Keane, who put the Balfe Motorsport car in the leading position, but Balfe is showing his circuit knowledge, just defends into Stowe. He's not going to make this easy, and why should he? Because he's in pursuit of International GTOpen victory. And therefore, I think just that defence into Stowe has signalled to Gia Maria that this isn't going to be a case of an easy stroll past Sean Balfe. Balfe is going to defend. As we saw in Estoril, Balfe is a very impressive defensive driver. He kept Alvaro Parent behind him lap upon lap upon lap. And as Gia Maria has caught Balfe, it means that Balfe's pace is increased. Into Village they come, and again Balfe just knows to defend from Gia Maria, who sees space to the inside at the loop. Does he find a way through? Balfe gives racing room to Raffaele Gia Maria, who repays the compliment as they go absolutely door handle to door handle through Aintree, and Sean Balfe maintains the lead just about. The pair of them, nothing between them as they propel down the Wellington Straight. Surely though, Gia Maria is going to take advantage on the brakes into Brooklands. He jumps on the anchors a little bit later than Balfe, and he's made it through and takes the lead. So Gia Maria out front, Balfe in pursuit. Relief written all over Ezequiel Perez Companac Jr.'s face as Gia Maria is into the lead. He's not damaged the car, and now he can set off in pursuit. But that was a slow lap from both of them in defence. 2 minutes 4.8 for Gia Maria, 2 minutes 5.6 for Sean Balfe. And the reason that that is crucial is because of the progress of Alessandro Balzan, who is past the commentary box now, 17.5 seconds back from Sean Balfe. At 3 seconds a lap with 4 seconds to go, it's still probably not going to be quite enough for Balzan to reel in Balfe. For Gia Maria and Ezequiel Perez Companac, this result potentially puts them right back into the title hunt, with today being a relatively low-scoring day for both Ramos and Parent and Lathoras and Rugolo. In the GTM class as well, we've got a battle coming together between Sadanovic and Rasmussen for those honours, as James Abbott has found a way past Rafael Unzurazaga in the dispute of 10th position. And James Abbott, experienced radical campaigner, also single-seater experience in the British Formula Ford Championship. As here is another look at the pass for the lead of the race. Brilliant stuff, absolutely nothing between them as they came through Aintree. But Gia Maria had the inside run as they arrived into Brooklands, and there wasn't really much more that Balfe could do. And a change in the GTM battle because Mads Rasmussen has passed Claudio Sadanovic. So Rasmussen and Felipe Barrieros now the top GTM combination. Claudio Sadanovic demoted, and that also is the pass for 7th position. Here we see how it unfolded. Sadanovic just a little bit wide on the way into Luffield, and he understeered out wide. Rasmussen able to get the switch back and past. Oh no, a problem for Rafael Unzurazaga. The door is open. The marshals poised to move the Spaniard. Can't quite tell whether or not that was a mechanical issue, or whether or not Unzurazaga possibly spun it away. So here comes Balzan. He's bringing Matthias Russo with him for company. Across the line for Alessandro Balzan, a 2 minutes 1.5. 15 seconds his deficit to Sean Balfe. That feels like it's in the realms of the insurmountable. But both of them are being caught by about 0.6 of a second a lap by Alvaro Parent. Again, suspect that Parent is going to run out of time here to challenge for 3rd place. But certainly the Vallorba and Baporo Ferraris can't afford to particularly engage in battle with each other. Here comes the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren. Parent, who has been the only driver really consistently beneath the 2 minute 1 second barrier, hasn't quite broken the 2 minute barrier as we saw during qualifying earlier on. So Alessandro Balzan, half a second quicker than Sean Balfe through the first sector. That's not enough. He needs to be to have any chance of getting second place. Probably 3.5 seconds a lap quicker than the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari. Raffaele Giammaria, having taken the lead, has just broken clear of Sean Balfe, but then is beginning to manage his pace. Matthias Russo, they're having the opportunity to examine what Alessandro Balzan's doing, not allowing Balzan to break away. And Perrin closing up onto the pair of them. Right, so through Sector 2, Alessandro Balzan gives us a 53.5. Alvaro Perrin a 53.0, so he's half a second quicker just through the second sector of the lap. And the gap was 4.6 seconds at the start of the lap between Matthias Russo and Alvaro Perrin. What's it going to be at the end of the lap? Because we have probably got 3 more laps, depending on the point at which Raffaele Giammaria broke the timing beam. Balzan goes through a 2 minutes 1.1. Perrin a 2 minutes 0.485, fastest lap of the race for Alvaro Perrin. He is fractionally over 4 seconds adrift from Matthias Russo. It was half a second quicker than Russo last time through. We also had a very good lap from Balfe in second place, which means that he's now under no particular threat from Balzan hunting him down. But could we see something of the miraculous from Perrin, maybe just gain 1 more place, which will help he and Miguel Ramos in their title fight, their main championship rivals ahead of the weekend. Passing Thoras and Michele Rugolo currently in 6th position, with Thoras a long way back from Alvaro Perrin. So here come Balzan and Russo. Russo was actually a little bit quicker than Alessandro Balzan last time around as well. So the fight for third is far from settled, as we have a look in super slow motion at Raffaele Giammaria at work through the veil. Full concentration. You could see from Giammaria, the second that he was through the left-hand, he was looking to the right-hand side, setting up the racing line. So around the loop we come. We are at the conclusion of the 27th lap of the race, and so we're going to be going into the penultimate lap almost certainly, as Carlos Sazanovic loses out again, this time to Miguel Sardina. So Sardina now taking second place amongst the GTOpen combinations, and that was the pass for 8th place in the race overall. So Giammaria across the line now, so we are into the penultimate lap here at Silverstone. And the place is switching all the way through to the flag. The Sport New Mercedes has been looking really good all weekend. Manuel da Costa, Miguel Sardina putting together 2 very solid drives. Here we see it again, and once more it was the issue for Sazanovic. He just missed the turn-in point to Luffield, and thereafter was on the dirty part of the track, and unfortunately just couldn't get the car across to cover the line in time. Well, Matthias Russo has just set his personal best lap of the race in his pursuit of Alessandro Balzan. He's got essentially 1 1/3 laps with which to try and sort this out, as he chases Balzan down the hanger straight. And maybe Russo has played the long game here, just preserved the Michelin tires a little bit better than Balzan, who has charged up through the order. As now Russo in a poised to ask some questions of Balzan as they come onto the brakes into the veil. Matthias Russo has raced with great success across Europe in GT and sports cars, also in Argentina in the TC 2000 Championship. Closing up on to Alessandro Balzan as they turn through Abbey and then around Farm before they duck onto the brakes into Village and the loop. So it's just a lap and a third remaining. Russo probably needs to be a couple of car lengths closer to Balzan really to mount that challenge along the Wellington Straight, which is where they accelerate now. They may catch Carlos Sazanovic as well between now and the checkered flag. So through Brooklands, and Russo a little bit more confident on the brakes, isn't he, compared to Alessandro Balzan. Balzan driving within margins. Russo clearly feels he's got a little bit of grip left in his tyres, and therefore slightly deeper on the brakes, but he couldn't quite maintain that pace through Luffield as they accelerate now into the 29th and final lap of the race. This is the fight for third place. Raffaele Giammaria, he is our race leader, having hunted down and passed Sean Balfe. Balfe, though, on course for an excellent second place finish. So smiles from the AF Course team on the pit wall. At the same time, I think they will be very pleased to see their car coming back around to complete the lap. And this would make Ezequiel Perez-Compenac and Raffaele Giammaria our first combination of the season to score 2 victories in the International GTOpen. Already about to hit the halfway point of the year. So we flick through into Club Corner for the final time. It's been a beautifully judged performance, this, from Giammaria. He's always been very, very impressive at the wheel of a Ferrari as he heads into Abbey now for the final time. Then around Farm. Just got a little bit of the banana skin of the heavy braking zone of Village to negotiate, but that presents no problems. And then around the loop, picks up the throttle nice and gently, uses the curb, doesn't get onto the grass. The clock ticks to 0. The checker flag is just a couple of corners away for Raffaele Giammaria and Ezequiel Perez-Compenac. This is going to bring a pair of them also right into the title fight on a day where Passing the Thoros and Michele Rugolo have had a low-scoring finish. And Parent and Ramos having to settle for 5th position. So it is going to be victory in the 6th round of the International GTOpen for AF Course. Raffaele Giammaria and Ezequiel Perez-Compenac. The teams celebrate on the pit wall. A perfectly judged performance. They played the strategy to the fore. An excellent second place to Phil Keane and Sean Balfe and the Balfe Motorsport team. And then 3rd place for Vallorba Course, Alessandro Balzan and Nicola Bonucci, with 4th to the Poporo Motorsport Ferrari of Matthias Russo, and Emiliano Lopez 5th to Tio Martin Motorsport, the McLaren of Alvaro Parent, and Miguel Ramos, and then it will be 6th place to Passing the Thoras and Michele Rugolo. But a long way back. For whatever reason, the Thoras just really struggling to get the AF Course Ferrari working as he wanted it to in the second half of the race. Nonetheless, he brings the car, or will bring the car home to the flag. 6th place, it's championship points. So across the line then for the Thoras. Well, plenty for AF Course to celebrate because they win the race overall. They have also won the Amateur Drivers' Trophy in the form of Mads Rasmussen and Felipe Barrieros as well, with their excellent 7th place. As Giammaria heads onward back towards Parc Ferme, where we will be hearing from him and Ezequiel Perez-Compenac in a few moments' time. For the International GTOpen, it's a couple of weeks of a break, and then we are next in action the first weekend of July, the 4th and 5th of July, at the Red Bull Ring. A very welcome return to the Red Bull Ring for the International GTOpen, and of course you'll be able to watch all of the action live in the usual places. So let's take a look then at the classification at the end of a thrilling race. So Ezequiel Perez-Compenac and Raffaele Giammaria win it, 5 seconds clear of Sean Balfe and Phil Keane, with in 3rd place Sandro Balzan and Nicola Bonucci, 4th for Emiliano Lopez and Matthias Russo, 5th and fastest lap for Miguel Ramos and Alvaro Parent, 6th for Thoras and Rugolo, 7th, and GTAM winners Felipe Barrieros and Mads Rasmussen, and then James Abbott and Shahi Nouri completing the top 10 after that race-long tussle with Rafael and Zarazaga. So in terms of the championship then, Parent and Ramos are now 10 points clear of Giammaria and Perez-Compenac and Bonucci and Balzan, who are tied on 76 points, and that's a point clear of Rugolo and the Thoras, who slide to 4th in the standings. So with just 8 races remaining in the GTOpen season, we've got the top 4 driver pairings separated by 11 points. It's going to be a thrilling run into the championship. Perez-Compenac absolutely overjoyed greets Gia Maria, who celebrates as he jumps out of the car. They are really, really pleased with that. Fantastic drive. They managed the strategy to perfection. It's into second place for Alfin Keane, third place. A really charging drive from Alessandro Balzan alongside Nicola Bonucci.